Over the past few years, I've developed an increasing interest in fine art, and I decided that I wanted to finally start learning more about them. And I realised that a good way of doing that would be to make a series of monthly videos about specific paintings in order to then research them and make my videos about the things I learned about the painting. I've decided to start with Vincent van Gogh because he is one of the most significant figures in Western art, and I've started with Bedroom in Arles, which is actually the umbrella title for a painting by Vincent van Gogh that has three similar versions. He painted three different versions of Bedroom in Arles. Van Gogh himself simply called it The Bedroom. The three versions of Bedroom in Arles can be differentiated by the paintings within the painting on the wall to the right. And in the second version, which is the one that I've chosen for this video, the two paintings are a self-portrait and a portrait of an unidentified woman who may not even have existed. But the self-portrait is a miniature recreation of one of his own real self-portraits that was then referenced in the second version of Bedroom in Arles. The painting depicts Van Gogh's real bedroom at 2 Place Lamartine, also known as the Yellow House, which Van Gogh also painted. The door to the right opened onto the staircase to the upper floor, and the door to the left opened into the guest room that Van Gogh had prepared for his friend Paul Gauguin, the French post-impressionist and symbolist. The window on the far wall looked out onto Place Lamartine and its public gardens. The room was not actually a rectangle but a trapezoid. The wall on the left was at an obtuse angle, which is visible in following the skirting behind the table and the chair on the left-hand side, and then the wall on the right was at an acute angle, which is visible with the corner between the wall and ceiling. We know this despite the fact that the house was destroyed. It was destroyed in an air raid on the 25th of June 1944 and was demolished thereafter, but knowledge of the house comes from floor plans that had been made by local Arles architect Leon Ramser in the 1920s, and those floor plans are consistent with the painting. After painting the first version, Van Gogh was interned in the old hospital at Arles, which inspired another series of his paintings. That internment was in two separate occasions. The first was December 1888, and the second was a month later in January 1889. And during his internment, the Rhône flooded, and the first version took water damage because he wasn't there to take measures. So after that, Van Gogh sent the first version to his brother, Theo van Gogh, the art dealer. On the 8th of May 1889, Van Gogh then admitted himself to the St. Paul Asylum, where he remained until May 1890. He spent a whole year in the St. Paul Asylum, and it was there that he painted this second version. So the first one, after painting it, he was a patient in the old hospital at Arles. He painted the second version and the third version while he was a patient at the St. Paul Asylum. He didn't really have a fixed address, in the sense that he tended not to remain in one residence or situation for too long, which I'll get to later. On the 22nd of May 1889, Vincent van Gogh sent Theo van Gogh a letter asking him to have the first version relined. He said in his letter, "Gauguin ought to be able to tell you the address of a man who could reline the bedroom and who won't be too expensive. The restoration ought, I imagine, to cost 5 francs. If it is more, then don't have it done. I'm sure Gauguin didn't pay any more on the many occasions when he had his canvases or Cézannes or Pissarros relined." Vincent van Gogh then received a reply from Theo van Gogh on the 16th of June 1889. Theo van Gogh told him that he wasn't going to have the first version relined until Vincent van Gogh had made a copy first, and that he was going to send the first version back to him so that he could do that. And in this paragraph of the letter, Theo van Gogh also talks about some other paintings that Vincent van Gogh had sent him. Gauguin went off to Ponthaven 2 weeks ago, so he has not seen your pictures. Isaacson thinks very highly of your last consignment. I shall send you back the bedroom, but you must not think of retouching this canvas if you can repair the damage. Copy it, and then send back this one so that I can have it recanvassed. And then, on the 5th or 6th of September 1889, Vincent van Gogh sent Theo van Gogh another letter explaining that he'd painted a second version of the bedroom, saying, "Thus I've done the painting of the bedroom once more. That's certainly one of my best studies, and sooner or later it must definitely be relined. It was painted so quickly and has dried in such a way that the turpentine evaporated straight away and the paint hadn't stuck firmly to the canvas at all. That will also have happened with other studies of mine painted very quickly and with a very full brush. Anyway, after some time this thin canvas deteriorates and cannot take a lot of impasto. You've got some excellent stretches, damn it. If I had some like that to work with, I'd be a lot better off than with these laths you get here which warp in the sun. Yes, I do think that it's a good idea to do some pictures for Holland, for Mother and our two sisters. That will make 3, that is to say the Reaper, the bedroom, the olive trees, wheat field and cypress. It will even make 4, for there's somebody else I'm going to do one for as well." And so, on the 18th of December 1889, Vincent van Gogh sent the first and second version of Bedroom in Arles to Theo van Gogh in Paris. Since 1926, the second version of Bedroom in Arles has been displayed by the Art Institute of Chicago as part of its Helen Birch Bartlett Memorial Collection. Its measurements, the canvas measurements, are 73.6 by 92.3 centimetres, which, when framed, becomes 88.9 by 108 by 8.9 centimetres. The first critical catalogue of Van Gogh's works was compiled by the Dutch art historian and jurist Jacob Bart de la Fay, whose name I'm probably mispronouncing. And the second version of the bedroom is catalogued F484. From the 14th of February to the 10th of May 2016, the second version of the bedroom was exhibited as part of Van Gogh's bedrooms. This was an exhibition held by the Institute which reunited the second version with its two brothers to be displayed together in North America for the first time. And this was also the first exhibition dedicated to Bedroom in Arles, all 3 versions, and presented a study of their production and their personal meaning to Van Gogh. The Institute has called the bedroom, the whole series, the most famous genre in the history of art. This was an artist who had spent most of his life moving and not having a bedroom of his own. He only lived 37 years and he moved 37 times. For him, the bedroom was something that was loaded with meaning.